Seeing part 2, when we started to see the footage, we knew it was straight away it was a totally different film. It was all the action of the 7th book, all in one film.
When looking at it as 2 films, it seems unbalanced because you've got yin and yang, you've got quiet and loud. When you look at it as part of the whole piece, it's theatrical. You have to have the lull before the storm. You have to have the anticipation before the payoff. But David Yates is a director who very much follows the story, and if any film needs to follow a story, it's Harry Potter. David's take on sound is that it very much it's integral. He thought that sound was 85% of the film. I was like, I want to work with this guy. This is great news.
Well, I think with a series like Potter, there would be a danger that you would get locked into certain sounds, and there are certain sounds we use which have been there since the first movie. But of course, with each situation, we do tend to adapt those sounds a little bit, but we'll bring something special to absolutely every one of them.
I think there's always a danger that with a franchise like this, that the sound could become quite staid in its approach. And we are, in certain areas, we are tied to certain sounds. There's things that we have to use because that is the generic sound of, magic for this or a certain kind of spell. But what the effects guys are so fantastic at is just adding those little nuances, the little things that just make you think, no, it's different. It's still gutsy. It still has the character, but it's better.
We started out at Leavesden, which is in Watford, which is where they were actually shooting, which gave us an enormous palette of places to record, stuff to record, things like that we wouldn't have been able to get very easily had we been just in Soho, just in a normal place.
One of the examples we did was in the room of requirements. There's a lot of furniture that's tumbling over and falling, crashing to the ground. So we decided to stack up furniture, a lot of furniture, and knock it over.
I'll set the bloody place on fire!
This is another thing that one of the reasons that was great to be at Leavesden was it gave us opportunity to do this. They had caravans hanging around, so we loaded it up with crockery and things that can smash, and it's fantastic fun to be able to do that instead of just a library smash or let's go and record a pane of glass smashing. We got to smash up a caravan.
We also got a special effects unit to set up a flamethrower, which we recorded interior and exterior. So we had all our own completely clean flames, bursts, burning for the room of requirements and for the dragon. As most sound designers will confess, when you're doing a scene with fire, very often you'll incorporate animal sounds to give you that extra warmth and growl and snarl and hiss. And so for us to have the fire actually as animals was kind of turning it on its head a bit.
Alexander's score has been fantastic. He's worked very hard with David. We can see in part 2 certainly brought some fantastic themes that go round in your head, and I think that's great.
It's an immense amount of work from Alexander and Conrad, his orchestrator, and their team to literally to write such a huge amount of very, very large orchestral music. I think it's been successful. You know, I think it's very much Alexander Desplat's score in all sorts of ways. You know, he has a unique writing style and
I'm sure Alexander would say that David's not the easiest person to write a score for, because David won't give up until he feels that emotion in the scene. He feels that the music is sitting there doing what he wants emotionally in the scene. And Alexander is a master at that, but he's got to write it for David and then write it for the movie.
It was always a plan to mix the two films separately, obviously because of the scheduling of them. That's the fundamental reason. But they're very different films. They have a similar title, but they're not the same thing by any means. All the way through mixing the first one, we were warned the second one is different. It's bigger, it's noisier, it's more complex.
We were very lucky and rather spoilt. We were given a projector and a 3D rig that we could then project 3D images on the screen and actually dub to. What we found more than anything else was that anything around the peripheral edge, any detail around the periphery needed to be just brought out a little bit. Just pushing it up a few dB in the 3D mode gave us that, because I'm seeing it, I need to hear it.
95% of the movie played really well in 3D, even though we've been mixing against a 2D picture. So I've always likened watching a movie to being a window. The screen's a window and we look through it, and the 3D that you'll see in this film seems to enhance that kind of theory.
It's a life-changing experience. I think pretty much anybody who's worked on these productions would say the longevity and the responsibility, it changes. The whole process of addressing work changes, because you don't often get a job that has the potential of running on for many years.
Obviously, coming to the last film in a franchise like this, with expectations being so high in all areas, there was a lot of emphasis on how complex this was going to be and how much was expected of it. And it's been great. It's been an absolute pleasure to work on. But it's just wonderful to work on a film like this that actually wants sound. It doesn't shy away from it. It doesn't sort of just have to have it. It needs it. It wants it. It lives because of it.